a disproportionate lack of people from Harvard and Yale, as I've heard it put. And these are questions, these are issues that will be debated for quite some time as a result of this war. But as that assesses that force as of today, it is obviously right. May I say this, Brian? If anyone has watched these fighter pilots on television, these are very solemn, dedicated, business-like, professional people. Fighter pilots tend to have a reputation for being, you know, hotshots. These fellows are every bit as professional as it's possible to get.
Let's join the Riyadh briefing. No, the military's briefing in Riyadh right now. Let's go to that live. Major General.
Gentlemen, that is a very basic rundown on where we stand today, and I'd like to open the floor up for questions.
Michael Rigby, TVAM News in London. Can you tell me how it's possible you unintentionally fired Patriot missiles, and were they the ones seen here from Riyadh?
Until we've investigated, I think it's rather difficult for me to predict and to speculate, quite frankly, on how they were launched.
Were they the ones from here that were seen?
It is my understanding that those are the ones that were seen on your video screens, yes.
Can you just confirm that they were either destroyed by yourself in the air, or what did happen to them?
They were destroyed.
Thank you. There's a report that the Iraqis are using a Texaco facility in the neutral zone as a platform for their SAMs and AAA. And could you confirm that they are using Kuwaiti oil facilities as a cover for their anti-aircraft installations?
Well, I think I was really talking about that one incident where the Navy and the Kuwaiti patrol boats actually were picked up some Iraqis who were firing from platforms.
And this is done onshore in the storage area?
Those were offshore platforms.
Yeah, and this is, but I've heard a report that they are still onshore in the Texaco facility.
I cannot support that. I'd be speculating at this time. Yes, sir.
Do you know whether these the anti-aircraft or the SEM, the SA-7s that were fired from these platforms were responsible for hitting any of the aircraft that we have lost or any aircraft that we didn't lose?
Quite frankly, I really couldn't respond to that. I don't know. But clearly they were firing at aircraft, and we have eliminated that threat.
Is that information you could tell us if you knew?
If I knew, I would tell you. Certainly.
How many platforms are we talking about?
I think there were 9 or 10, several. 9, I believe, is the correct number.
Only one follow-up.
Would these be the first POWs taken in this conflict,
yes,
to your knowledge?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Can you tell us about casualties on either side in the storming of the platforms and any other details of that fight that you can give us?
I do not have all the details yet. I think until we get the crews back and the POWs, it'll be pretty difficult to give you a totally clear picture. We have no casualties on our side.
No casualties, no U.S. casualties.
Yes, sir.
General, as a matter of policy, do you intend to make a distinction between prisoners of war and Iraqi defectors who give up the fight or want to stop fighting in some way?
Well, they still, of course, would be processed through a POW compound.
But would they be treated differently if they approached our forces and declared themselves to be defectors?
They'll all be treated according to the Geneva Convention. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
General Charles McLean from NBC. There were only 3 SCUDs fired last night, 8 the night before. Yes. Are you under the impression now that they may be running out of those mobile launchers? Or have we effectively, do you think, neutralized them?
Well, I think it's difficult to say that we've neutralized them, but I think if you look at, I believe we have some expectation there are probably about 50, perhaps 30 permanent sites and maybe 20 plus that can move around, total of 50 plus. And they've gone from firing 8 on one day down to 3, and they are being targeted as a very high priority target by our air campaign, and I think it would be reasonable to expect that we have certainly caused them to have great difficulty in firing. So I think that the answer is our air campaign is having some effect on their ability to fire those missiles. But it's not to say that they're all disappeared, that the threat has gone away totally.
General
Yes, sir.
ITN, could you tell us how many SCUDs, mobile and fixed launches, you've accounted for so far?
It's a little early to tell, quite frankly. It's until you can confirm battle damage, and there is a lot of cloud cover out there, I think I would be reluctant to say that we've killed a certain number. I think really by the fact that they're firing less at this point would give us some high confidence that we're having an effect on them with our air campaign. But I couldn't give you a head count right now. Yes, ma'am.
Have the coalition forces decided yet who will be the detaining power for POWs? Which government?
The Saudi Arabian government, as the host nation, will be ultimately responsible for the control of those POWs.
All POWs will be handed over to them.
Ultimately, they will be handled by each one of the components and eventually handled by the Saudi Arabian government. Yes, sir.
Terry Atlas from the Chicago Tribune. You referred to cloud cover. Is that continuing to obstruct targets that you're shooting at, and what effect is it having in terms of both effectiveness, success rates, and the percentage of targeted targets that are hit?
Well, I couldn't talk to percentages, but clearly it does degrade somewhat our ability to fire on targets and certainly to be able to see whatever battle damage that you've been able to inflict on those targets. But you have to appreciate that we have enormous technology that allows us to do things in the dark and under marginal weather conditions. So I think it's a fair statement to say that it has done very little to really slow down our game plan with this air campaign.
Just to follow up, but some of the poll reports report a number of planes coming back with their weapons, their missiles and bombs not discharged. So clearly a number of flights are coming back and not hitting their targets. Is that correct?
Well, I think that would be true if it was a clear day. I think historically you will find that not all aircraft can drop their bombs on the target. It can be a function of a mechanical problem with the aircraft, etc., not locating the exact target that he was assigned to. A number of reasons, not just weather, that would prevent them from firing on their targets. Yes, sir.
Aviation Week, could you give us an idea of the type of missions that are routinely assigned to the Harriers and how well they're performing in that role?
Well, the kinds of, a Harrier is primarily a close air support system, but it can do virtually everything, and the Harriers are very much a part of this air campaign. So a wide variety of roles, really the roles that I've described for you.
Sir, it's been quite a while since this country's taken POWs. For those who may not know, what eventually happens to them? Are they freed at some point in time? Are they allowed to go where they want? Or
well, I would hope at the end of the war that there would be obviously the logical repatriation of POWs in accordance with, strictly in accordance with the Geneva Convention.
I'm also wondering, based on your own experience in fighting, what impact, if any, is television having on anything that you may or may not be doing? You're getting instant everything, whereas in the past that just wasn't the case. Is it hampering your ability to do what you want to do? Is it helping it?
Well, I think it's probably a wash. Quite frankly, there's a good deal of circular reporting that comes up from the media, and it's always, in our best judgment, the thing to do is to make sure that we can validate it on the ground. So there has been a lot of speculative reporting that has to be put to bed by us confirming it by the actual events themselves. So it complicates things a little bit, but I think in the balance, it's a wash, really.
A senior Saudi official told the BBC earlier today that he believed the Iraqis no longer had the capacity to hit major Saudi population centers using their long-range missiles, and he said the only place they could hit was Hafr al-Batan. What's your reaction to that? And if the Saudis are saying this sort of thing, would you tell us if they did fire a missile at Riyadh?
Would I tell you if they were firing at Riyadh? Well, yes, certainly we would. I think it's a little premature. We're only 36 hours into the campaign, and to make an assumption that we have totally eliminated all of his capabilities, including the ability to fire SCUDs. I think that the trend shows that they've gone from 8 to 3, and we're attacking his SCUD targets with great energy. And I think that is perhaps the best protection against the SCUD launches. But I can't say that we've eliminated that threat.
Sir?
I have this gentleman here.
Mohammed from Kuwait Television. Could you tell us more about the USS
Nicholas and the Kuwait Patrol port?
I can't give you the details of that. We have, again, an initial report of the outcome of that and the fact that we have picked up some Iraqi POWs, and we've eliminated that surface-to-air threat to our air forces. And until we recover the crews and get a full report, I really couldn't give you any more details. Okay, I think over here. Yes, sir.
A little bit more about those oil platforms. What units were used? How long did it take? And the platforms were far from the Kuwaiti coast, and we will have any other attacks on other platforms?
I can't give you the exact distance, but there were some miles offshore Kuwait, and as we said, 9 different platforms. And I cannot give you the details of exactly how we attacked those platforms specifically. That'll have to wait until we get a full account of exactly how they eliminated that threat.
One more question.
And I cannot say that there are no more enemy forces out on other platforms, but I can assure you that that's part of our mission, is to make sure that we eliminate all threats to our friendly aircraft. Yes, sir, right here.
So Richard Ellis from the Sunday Times. When the land battle comes, what's your assessment on how far you'll have to strike inside Iraq?
Well, I think that's, this is going to be a long campaign, if need be. It'll be done with great caution and very professionally, and with the objective of minimizing our friendly casualties. And I think it would be very speculative for me to say, when the campaign starts and how far we would have to go. I think it's too early in the game to look that far ahead.
When you say long, what does long mean?
I would not put any limit on that. It will be as long as we need to satisfy the mission given to us by the President. And I think you have to wait to see on the battlefield exactly how long that's going to be. I would not predict. There's no timeline that we have established.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. One more question.
Some of your allies, particularly